Jeremy Corbyn has told British voters they don't have to accept that inequality and injustice are inevitable, and things can and must change. In his first conference speech after becoming Labour leader, Mr. Corbyn vowed to create a kinder politics, a more caring society. But he also attacked David Cameron's shocking broken promises and said Labour would challenge austerity. And he restated his belief in getting rid of Britain's nuclear weapons. Follow reaction to the speech on the Labour conference live page. Mr. Corbyn arrived on stage in Brighton to a lengthy standing ovation from Labour delegates and his shadow cabinet, before delivering a 59-minute speech that eschewed the traditional section on the leader's family and background. There were jokes. He took a swipe at some of the press coverage he has received since his surprise Labour leadership victory, but he also spoke at length, and off the cuff, about his values and how he planned to change his party. Following the speech, it was revealed a large section was based on a blog written in 2011. Speechwriter Richard Heller wrote the passages and they were offered to previous Labour leader Ed Miliband, but not used. Mr. Heller told the BBC he had written to offer them to Mr. Corbyn shortly after his election as leader, and had been surprised and very glad they were eventually used. He had been informed by Mr. Corbyn's office on Tuesday afternoon that the passages were to be used, he added. Economic failure. In his speech, Mr. Corbyn addressed head-on David Cameron's claim that he represented a threat to the security of British families. How dare these people talk about security for families and people in Britain? There's no security for the 2.8 million households in Britain forced into problem debt by stagnating wages and the Tory record of the longest fall in living standards since records began, he said. And that's the nub of it. Tory economic failure. An economy that works for the few, not for the many. He told Labour activists he was unapologetic about reforming our economy to challenge inequality and protect workers better and said people should not have to accept what was given to them by global corporations, and there should be no limit on what they could achieve. We are a rich country. These things are not necessary or inevitable. They can and must be changed. He said most British people shared his values, adding, I know there's a big British majority for building a more equal society, for eliminating poverty and homelessness. And he attacked the commentariat for reporting splits in his top team, saying this is grown-up, real politics where real people debate real issues. To a standing ovation, he added, cut out the personal abuse, cut out the cyberbullying, and especially cut out the misogynistic abuse. Let's get on with bringing real values back into politics. Open debate. His approach of allowing shadow cabinet members to speak freely on issues where they disagree with him will continue. I am not imposing leadership lines. I don't believe anyone has a monopoly on wisdom, we all have ideas and a vision of how things can be better, he said. I want open debate, I will listen to everyone, I firmly believe leadership is listening. The huge mandate he had been given as leader was a mandate for change, he said. It was a vote for change in the way we do politics, in the Labour Party and the country. BBC Deputy Political Editor James Landale said the speech was directed at the Labour Party itself, with not much of a message for the outside world, but added that a reference to aspiration was the germ of an interesting idea. For the Conservatives, Justice Secretary Michael Gove said, the Labour leaders' policies to borrow more, print money and put up taxes on people's jobs and incomes would wreck our economy. That would weaken our nation's defences, damage our NHS and hurt our country's working people, with the poorest hit the most. UKIP called the speech fantastical, saying, his politics are underpinned by a naive and optimistic view of the world that is so short-sighted it is frankly dangerous. His words are like inspirational memes. Beguiling as they may be, they all belong to a virtual world. A succession of union leaders welcomed the speech, saying there was now a true opposition. Mark Sierwotka, PCS General Secretary, said Mr. Corbyn had brilliantly answered his critics, while the Fire Brigade's union's Matt Rack said the speech could mark a turning point in British politics. Business groups questioned some of Mr. Corbyn's message, however. The British Chambers of Commerce said businesses would not like the thought of an interventionist state propping up failing companies and renationalising utilities, while the CBI said it shared Labour's aim of spreading the proceeds of growth. But we don't recognise Mr. Corbyn's characterisation of the economy.